In this episode, I explain how I had 120 cups of coffee in a day, should you be taking D3, why your shoulders are sore, and what you should be eating for breakfast.
You ask questions, and we'll answer them. This is the Ask DVCC show.
Hey, this is Mark and Steve from the DVCC, and this is the Ask DVCC show. And in today's episodes, firstly there's two of us, and we're going to be answering a few questions that were primarily Instagrammed and tweeted to us. So if you have any questions, be sure to hashtag AskDVCC and ask the questions on Instagram, or actually Facebook, email, anywhere you want, and we'll collate them and answer them here. So, the first question we have is...
Christina asked, why do my shoulders hurt?
So, I'll throw this over to Stephen. Well, quite often there's a couple of main causes for this. Now, obviously, it's important that you get checked out by a physio or a doctor if necessary. This isn't a blanket prescription. However, what we see most with our clients is that most people work a desk job or they sit down a lot and they tend to be in a hunched position, which often results in your pectorals, so your chest muscles, becoming quite tight, particularly something called pec minor, which basically pulls your shoulders forward. Now, that puts your shoulders into a stressed position, particularly your rotator cuffs, the muscles on the back of your shoulder, and they'll be slightly longer than they should and weaker. So what you end up in is this what we call kyphotic position, which is a tight chest and weaker shoulder muscles. Now, the importance of those external rotator muscles that I mentioned are that they help stabilize your shoulder, keep your shoulder nice and solid in its socket, and whenever you're lifting above your head, whenever you're doing anything away from your body, those muscles are super important in protecting your shoulder and making it the integrity really, really strong. Quite an interesting one. I was just thinking then as I was sitting down, I'm automatically in a internally rotated position here, so I think naturally we always sit in an internally rotated position. And what we'll do, actually, we'll shoot some videos on how to strengthen up your rotator cuffs, and hopefully we can edit them and put them somewhere here so you can see. Because the answer is quite simple, but it's just a case of consistently stretching these muscles here, and actually strengthening the external rotator muscles, the stabilizing shoulders of the muscle. Also, some other muscles to stabilize, the ones that stabilize your scapula, your lower trapezius, and things that basically are on the other side of your body, which actually most people don't do because they can't see them. They're not on the front. So if you see young bodybuilder types, they've got a great front body and then they have no back because they don't see that in the mirror. So, certainly if you've got sore shoulders, the great thing to do would be stretching your chest, which we'll probably show, I'm sure, exercises
showing in the video,
and then strengthen those muscles that stabilize the shoulder.
Cool.
So the next question is...
Philip asked, what should I be eating for breakfast?
Or simple and complex question, it's been asked along. If you listen to the manufacturers, you should be having Kellogg's Frosties every morning. And I used to want that when I was young and at school. My mum and dad never used to buy us Kellogg's. They used to get Tesco's Value or something for their Kellogg's Frosties. But actually, the best breakfast for you to have for weight loss, muscle gain, mental acuity, everything is a high protein and a high fat breakfast. Okay, so something that contains protein, a good source of protein, and something that contains a good source of fat. Examples would be salmon and avocado, eggs, an omelette with lots of vegetables in would be great, with maybe a few handful of nuts. But basically, the principle is, some people like to have a beef burger for breakfast. Obviously, for a lot of people that kind of seems a bit awkward, but a nice omelette full of vegetables, spinach, things like that is a great go-to. Yeah, so that's the simple answer. High protein and high fat breakfast. Next question.
Gareth asked, do I need to supplement with vitamin D?
So vitamin D, or when we refer to it, vitamin D3, is basically what you get from the sun. When the sun rays hit your body, you produce vitamin D, or D3 essentially in your body. Now, when you do a lot of reading about it, it's very, very important that your body has enough D3 in it. Obviously, it's hard to give a blanket prescription for everyone, and if you have the opportunity to, then you can get your D3 levels checked. You can go to your doctor and they'll check them. I've had mine done, and it's a very interesting thing to have done. However, to be taking D3 is beneficial for most people, particularly in the winter months when you're not getting any sun anyway. That would be the real prime time, because that will help with your immune system. It'll stop you getting colds and little niggles and things like that. During the summer times, if you're outside and you're actually getting a lot of sun, then you probably could cut your D3 supplementation. But from basically in England from September through to July, we're not going to get that much sun.
No.
So
and it used to be that you have to, the D3 supplements were really weak in that you had to take quite a few tablets to get a certain level. Now, one tablet that you can buy, I think Solgar, which is a good make, is like 5,000 IUs, which is quite high. So you don't need any more.
And that's how it's measured in IUs. So 5,000 IUs per day in the winter months would be adequate.
Yeah. Okay, great. Hope that answers that one. So, last and final question is...
Lisa asked, should I take a caffeine supplement?
I think this was chosen because we've got a pretty good story. So firstly, Steve should never take a caffeine supplement due to the fact he had to go into A&E once because he overdosed on caffeine, which actually is a thing. Go on, tell us the story.
So basically, we didn't used to drink coffee, didn't like coffee, so I wanted to try caffeine because everyone was talking about caffeine makes you be able to work out harder. And this was in my younger days. And so we were going to work out about 12 o'clock. So I got some caffeine powder and I wanted to go for 600 micrograms. So, which is quite a lot of caffeine anyway, but I knew that caffeine didn't really do much for me. So I got the powder, measured it out on the scales, put it into a shaker, one of those drinking shakers, and I just drank it all down. And I was starting to walk across the gym floor, and I just felt a little bit funny, and I just thought, oh, this feels a bit weird. And so I went down onto my knees, and I was just, I'm feeling really awkward. This is weird. And then I ended up crawling all the way to the toilet, having horrendous shakes, and unfortunately throwing up, and then shaking again and throwing up. And I suddenly realised that obviously something I'd drunk was not the best for me. So I lay there for about half an hour before...
Good brother that I am, I Googled what was wrong, realised he had overdosed, and then called 101, I think it was. Was that they said to go to A&E immediately, so drove Stephen to A&E.
Worst drive, by the way.
Yeah.
Kept slamming on his brakes, hitting my head.
And we got to A&E, and straight in there, they injected you with...
Well, there's nothing you could do for it. They actually just gave me one of those anti-sickness injections that did nothing. And I just had to... Basically, I was awake from obviously first thing in the morning, and I didn't get to sleep until 5 o'clock the next morning because I had too much caffeine. But basically what had happened was I'd been measuring in grams rather than micrograms, and so I'd had 6 grams, which is the equivalent of 80 cups of... Now, hang on, let me get this right. 80 Red Bulls or 120 cups of coffee. So, so that's...
So we've never taken it since. I would suggest if you're going to supplement with caffeine, we personally don't think you need to. Focus on your nutrition first and you'll be able to get up for training. You'll be able to have enough impetus for training.
And people that are looking for stimulants and things, actually caffeine's not necessarily the one. You want ones that are actually going to help your brain give you more drive, and they're not the type of thing. Caffeine just gives you a kind of a false drive rather than actual mental clarity.
So learn from Stephen's mistakes. If you are going to take caffeine, get it in pill form and really start low and see how you feel.
If you want to take caffeine, just have an espresso and have coffee before.
So hopefully you enjoyed that story and hopefully it's made you realise what you should and shouldn't do with caffeine. As always, we ask a question of the day, and today's question of the day is: how many cups of coffee do you have a day? Leave it in the comment box below, and it'll be interesting to see if anyone's nearing Stephen's 120 cups of coffee. Comment in the box below, and otherwise we'll see you next time, and this is the Ask DVCC show.